Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good out there. So, I don't know if you've seen in the news lately, the government has proposed banning basically CBT category bikes, 50cc's and 125s, sooner than the rest of them. As you may also know, the government is proposing to ban all internal combustion engine motorcycles and other vehicles from sale, as in new models, as of 2035. You can still use them after that, for as long as they last, but they won't be selling any new ones. Now, with regards to these bans, motorcycles have been on them, off them, backwards and forwards, unclarified, over the years. So I've had a nightmare of saying it's this way, then it gets switched another way. But now we are currently, it's been stable for a long time. All bikes 2035, internal combustion gone. Well, as I say, they've put a new proposal in that would ban 125s and 50cc's 5 years sooner. Their reason being, I guess, is that people shouldn't be learning, because that's what those vehicles generally are, learner vehicles, on a vehicle that they're not going to be using in the future. I don't really follow that myself, because obviously people have the option of doing their licence and then just going and buying a petrol bike. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you'll know that I'm actually quite a big fan of electric bikes. I've ridden quite a lot of different electric bikes, and I think they're all very good, generally. They have pros and they have cons, of course, but I'm not disappointed by the idea of having electric bikes in the future. The performance of them is just outstanding. That being said, I do understand people's point of view where they don't like electrics and they don't want to see them, being put in place before the technology's actually there, when it's going to be a good, affordable replacement. I can understand that too. So I'm going to share a few thoughts on this current proposal and things I think about it, but just know that I am kind of on the side of electric bikes, but not entirely. It has to make sense. I'm about facts and reality, and a lot of the discussions about electric motorcycles are not based in fact or reality, and that was proven out actually by some of the people that apparently are the voice of motorcyclists in the UK, the National Motorcycle Council. They shared their objections to this ban for various reasons I'll get into, which I'm afraid just highlights that they seem like they might be a bunch of older people who don't like electric bikes, because it's great to say no to something. If you're the people who are supposed to object to something, if you're going to object to it, you might want to use a valid argument. So the government's thinking basically behind this proposal is the fact that a few years ago, of the 125 sales, or should we say the CBT related sales, there wasn't a huge amount of electrics being bought. At this point in time, it was nearly 50% last year. However, that's not really representing things very truthfully. And that is because in the past couple of years, something happened. COVID happened, and the expansion of food delivery companies happened. And those food delivery companies needed fleet bikes, as in their own bikes that they have to look after, service and use. Well, it just so happens that they chose an electric motorcycle brand to supply them bikes. So they bought thousands of them in the past couple of years. That's not going to continue because they've bought their stock, they've bought their fleet. In the UK, there is only about 1 million motorcyclists. A lot of those are actually on smaller bikes. So the sales aren't absolutely astronomical numbers every year. So you buy a couple of thousand electric bikes, you really, really swing the results. And you can't say, well, that's going to continue because look now, because they're not going to be people buying fleets of bikes for delivering food. Sure, there's going to be an upkeep, but the entire idea of them buying the electrics was they should last a long time, and okay, they're going to have to replace batteries and such, but eventually, but the bikes themselves should go on a long, long time. So this definitely isn't something that's going to, keep up the numbers. So the National Motorcycle Council, when they objected to this ruling, this proposal, did they use that as a reason to say, well, that's actually misrepresenting the numbers of sales? No, they used a load of rubbish from what I've read anyway. They basically said, we don't agree with this because we don't think that electric battery technology is the answer at this point. It needs to be left open for further developments. Okay. They also said that the charging infrastructure isn't in place for these electric bikes. Okay, and we are talking about 125s and 50cc's here alone, not big CC bikes. Here is the problem with their argument. Saying no to something because you don't think it's the answer without offering another answer is not a good argument. Okay, so we are going to be getting rid of petrol. We know that's happening in 2035, but you want to have an argument to stop them doing it in 2030. So you suggest that somehow 125s being available for a bit longer means that other technologies might arise sooner? I mean, what are you thinking is going to happen? The only viable option we have now, and will have for a long time, is electric with batteries. The next technological jump, and that's going to come in the next 5 or 6 years, I hope, is solid-state batteries. That's going to really change the game. There is no other option. It's going to be electric. That's the truth of it. If you think hydrogen's going to be an option on motorcycles, I'm sorry, I don't think you're living in reality or know enough about the efficiencies of hydrogen in small vehicles. I've done an entire 30-minute video explaining why that's not going to happen. So that argument doesn't really do anything. It's not really based in a reality, and it doesn't actually really change anything. The other side is they said, oh, the charging infrastructure's not there. Now, this is where I have a feeling these people may have never touched an electric motorcycle or know too much about them. 125cc and 50cc equivalent electric bikes do not use fast chargers. They all use 3-pin plugs, pretty much, as far as I can tell. All of them. Yes, you can get fast chargers for that bike which plug into a 3-pin plug, but not fast chargers at the stations. So the charging infrastructure for these bikes is a 3-pin plug at home. Yes, I know, one of the biggest problems we have with electrics in the future is the fact that some people live in flats and they don't have anywhere to plug it in. Completely agree, it's a massive issue. I don't know how they're going to get around it. Now, I do know, because I've made many videos on electric motorcycles, that what is going to happen here is a lot of people are going to say a lot of things. Most of those could be categorised under about 5 different titles, and most of them are misinformed, and most of them are from people who have never ridden an electric motorcycle and would never ride an electric motorcycle. And because those people have never and would never, their opinion is not really valid in it at the moment. I mean, in the future, if it comes down to it and they find that they want a bike and the petrol bikes are too expensive to run because petrol's £5 a litre and they still want to have a bike, and they try an electric out and realise, damn, this thing's actually light, fast, it's cheaper to run, easier to run, etc, etc. They might change their minds, but they're definitely not going to change their minds now, and they wouldn't admit to the possibilities of that in the future. And well, let's see. Some people would actually, cut their nose off to spite their face because they hate electrics that much. Now, as I've said, I do like electric bikes, and I also like petrol bikes. At the end of the day, I love anything with 2 wheels, and I don't really care what powers it. As long as I don't have to pedal, I'm good with that. I don't have some emotional fear of electric bikes because I feel like they're about to take something away from us. Because I know that, the petrol option's always going to be there. I understand the electric bike problem and all of that pretty well at this point. And it's very frustrating to have conversations with people about them because most people don't understand them. And what I'm basing that in is facts and reality versus no facts and reality. Like the Motorcycle Council said there, the charging infrastructure is not available for them. 3-pin plug. How hard are they to find? As I said before, people say, the infrastructure is not there for electric bikes. The majority of people, and I mean this, the majority of people who are going to get an electric bike are going to charge them at home. And the reason they're going to do that is because that the average commute is less than 20 odd miles. This is where the facts and reality come into it. There are statistics out there of people's average drive length, and it's been going down and down. And at this point in time, someone could get a bike with, say, 60 miles of range, ride to work, ride back, maybe even take a bit of a long tour on the way home, still have power when they get home, and then they just plug it in, and then the next morning they have a full tank again. Unlike petrols, which don't fill themselves up overnight. And also, you're doing this at about 1/10 of the cost. Even with the electric rises, it still works out considerably cheaper. Now, I will say here, I actually, at this point in time, don't think, even though I've ridden some great 125 equivalent bikes, I don't think the options are good enough yet to be able to, ban the internal combustion sooner. If you look at the market, you have basically 3 levels of entry. You have the 50cc equivalents, which are up to 28 miles an hour. Personally, I'd say don't bother with that, just get an electric push bike, an e-bike, because they have the same sort of performance, but you don't have to pay for insurance and tax and all of that stuff at the moment. I'll get to that. Then the middle ground is things like the TC Max, which is the cheap 125cc equivalent electric. About 4 or 5 grand, something around there. About 60 miles of range, about 50-60 miles an hour top speed. They're very small. They're more like Grom size, but they do get you around, and you can have a good laugh on them. A much better version is like the Zero FX and FXE, which are ludicrously quick, CBT legal, 11 kilowatt, but because of the way it's measured differently, it means it does about the same performance as a 400cc bike. I'm not kidding. They are amazing. However, they're also amazingly expensive at about 13 grand. So at this point in time, you have faster than a normal 125 and it'll cost you 13 grand, or slower than a normal 125, kind of, although Euro 5 has actually brought those much closer together, but you're talking about 4 grand, 4.5, which is top-end internal combustion engine 125cc money, sort of. Around that price, if you're looking at brand new. And we are going to compare new to new here, because new to second-hand is not the same thing. So yes, in conclusion, before I get on to one more small prediction, that's the proposal. They're looking to bring the 125s and 50cc's forward to 2030 rather than 2035. Motorcycles for the win. And I don't have a huge problem with it necessarily, as in the sense of electrics coming along, but it's probably not the best idea yet. It depends if better options are available at the time, but also, as I say, the Motorcycle Council being the ones who apparently are a voice of the motorcyclists in the UK, I'll tell you now, you're not a voice of me, because I don't want someone representing me who doesn't know the issues. Because seriously, if you knew the market, if you knew about what happened in the past few years, you would have instantly highlighted the fact that the reason why electric sales are so high is because of COVID and all of those food couriers buying all those bikes up. I bet they don't even have a clue that's what it's about, what happened, or that happened at all. And yet, a channel like mine, which, admittedly, I've got 100,000 subscribers now, but only a couple of thousand people watch each of my videos, I know what the answer about it is. I'm pro-electric bike, pretty much, but I equally don't want to be represented by bull crap. And that's what that was. The infrastructure's not there because a 3-pin plug doesn't exist. Most people who are 17 are living with their parents, are mosting here, and they have access to charging. If they have the funds to own a motorcycle, I think they're going to have access to a 3-pin plug in the 125 category at the moment. Generally, not all the time, not in every case. Don't get offended if you're in a small percentile outside of that, or a smaller side. People singling themselves out of things like that to get offended at is something that also needs to stop. Well, I'm in a small minority that it doesn't fit that category and I'm offended. Well, okay, great. I apologise you're offended, but I can't change statistics. I'm sorry that you chose to be offended by that. Because remember, you only get offended by stuff you choose to be offended by. I've had a lot of stuff said to me over the years, and I didn't find it offensive because I didn't allow it to be offensive to me. I was like, you can say what you want, but you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. So how can you possibly offend me? But now we're getting to another subject. Right, let's end this one with the very last thing I wanted to point out. So, a little while ago, I talked about how maybe they're going to have to make some changes to motorcycle or the driving rules in the UK to categorise another licence type for like a personal travel vehicle, to basically include electric scooters and electric push bikes without pedal assist and stuff like that. Because an electric push bike without pedal assist, an electric scooter that you stand on, they are both illegal to use on the UK roads. If you do use one, you could lose, and you have a driving licence, you could actually lose your driving licence and get points on it and stuff like that. Well, probably not lose it, but if you're close to the edge, you can get points, is my point. There you go, perfect example. Totally illegal. As I say, things like that, they're proposing changing the rules to make them legal. But that doesn't mean they're going to just go, yep, they're legal, go and use them now. They might make a CBT, because remember, this is the government, and if they can legislate something, if they can regulate it, if they can make money off of it, they will make money off of it. Even if it's for their own end goal, like electric motorcycles were getting rebates from the government when you bought them. They've reduced that now significantly. we still haven't reached the point where people are really buying lots of electric. That's the other thing, actually. I'm sorry, I totally forgot about that side of it. When these companies were able to buy these electric bikes, they were getting money back from the government, so they're getting the bikes cheaper. I believe they still get that rebate. I think companies got it per bike, didn't they? That's something. See, that's something I'm not sure. I'll have to check. I'm willing to say when I don't know something, but if I say I know something, it means I probably know it. So there you go, there are my thoughts on the proposal, a few other bits and pieces, my thoughts on the National Motorcycle Council. I wish you'd get some younger people on board who actually don't just hate electric bikes, so that you can have a good argument in response, rather than your misguided, ill-informed reasons. I'm only going on the article I said, so maybe they did add other stuff in, I will clarify here, but from what I read, it wasn't a great argument. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to help support this channel, please consider doing that through Patreon. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.